What's going on, everyone? Today we're exploring Colorado's Rocky Mountains. Colorado is one of the most beautiful places in the world and has an endless amount of adventure to be had. Today we're going over some of my favorite bucket list hikes across the entire state. If this is your first time to the channel, it'd mean the world to me if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Bri and I have been traveling the globe for the last 10 years and making travel guides and videos on YouTube for the last 5 years. But without further ado, let's jump right in. This is my top 20 Colorado hikes to do in 2025. First up, we're hiking a Mohawk Lakes in Breckenridge. The trailhead for this is Spruce Creek Trailhead, and there's also an upper Spruce Creek Trailhead for those with four-wheel drive, but when we did this, we parked at the lower trailhead. When we hiked this, there was some confusing signs about some sub-trails and trailheads being closed, but everything was still open and accessible. This is because of trail construction, which may not matter because it might be done by now. But on this hike, you'll see a handful of lakes, plus Continental Falls Waterfall and Mayflower Lake. From the trailhead we did, the hike is roughly 8.4 miles round trip with 2100 feet of elevation gain. That is if you go all the way to the last lake. The beginning of this trail is through the trees on a dirt road, but once you reach the waterfall vista, this point forward, it's going to be beautiful every single step of the way. And next up, we have Seven Falls, located in Colorado Springs and close proximity to Manitou Springs. This series of 7 cascading waterfalls can be done at varying hiking lengths depending on how far you go and whether you hike up some of the stairs or take the elevator. The website will say it's a 0.8 mile hike with 220 feet of elevation gain, but when we did it, we clocked in 2.25 miles with 500 feet of elevation gain, but we didn't take the mountain elevator. We hiked up both sets of stairs. When we did it, entrance to the park cost $18 for adults and $10 for children. And I highly recommend booking your visit in advance because it can sell out, and then there's a complimentary shuttle service from the parking area to the falls, making it pretty convenient for visitors. And at night, the falls are illuminated with colorful lights, an experience that Bri and I will definitely have to go back for. And at number 3, we're heading to South Colony Lakes outside of West Cliff, which is arguably the busiest trailhead in Colorado's Wet Mountain Valley. The hike to South Colony Lakes is 8.1 miles round trip with 2,300 feet of elevation gain. The hike is beautiful and you're surrounded by 14,000 foot peaks like Crestone Needle, Crestone Peak, and Humboldt Peak. And once you reach the upper lake, you'll be greeted with views of one of the most jaw-dropping alpine lakes in the entire state. The peaks behind the lake are some of the more jagged in the area, and one note on this hike that I cannot stress enough is to bring bug spray. We got annihilated by bugs when we were here. And for this hike, it's worth noting that you will need four-wheel drive with clearance. The road to get up to the trailhead can be pretty brutal. After this, we're heading to what I like to call Colorado's Rainbow Mountain, and that is Red Mountain number 3, located along the $1 Million Highway near Silverton. This is a beautiful hike that has you ascend an old mining road to the summit of Red Mountain 3, standing tall at roughly 12,890 feet above sea level. If you can drive to the upper gate, it makes the hike 4.5 miles with about 1,500 feet of elevation gain round trip. We made it to the upper trailhead in my Corolla, so it's likely that any car can make it. And at the top, you'll be surrounded by beautiful views in every direction. You'll see a handful of 14ers, the $1 Million Highway below, fall foliage everywhere if you hike this in October, and we could see almost every single famous San Juan four-wheel drive mountain pass from the summit. And at number 5, we're heading to Needle Rock and hiking the Needle Rock Trail, a 0.8 mile hike with about 550 feet of elevation gain. I'd be shocked if many people watching have heard of this place. It's in a lesser visited area of the state, and we found it randomly last year, and we were blown away with how beautiful and unique this spot was. The hike is great, but my favorite part of this was viewing Needle Rock from a distance. It makes for some really cool photos with its jagged shape, and if you want to visit another place close to here that will give you cool views of Needle Rock from a distance, then check out Crawford State Park, where the rock formation will backdrop the lake. At number 6, we have Mount Garfield, another very unique mountain you can climb. This is the peak that towers over Palisade and Grand Junction in western Colorado. So if you've ever driven past Grand Junction on I-70, then you've already seen this. The mountain towers right above the highway. It's 3.4 miles with 1,900 feet of elevation gain, so it's short, but it's extremely steep. It took us 1 hour and 15 minutes to hike to the summit with some photo stops. I didn't record our descent, but it was definitely much faster going downhill. And this is not what you'd expect from the Rocky Mountains. This is a summit that makes you more feel like you're in southern Utah, and I didn't find the route finding overly difficult, but this is a hike where there is some exposure in some places, and it can get the heart pumping if you're scared of heights, but if you're up for it, it's an epic hike in Colorado. At number 7, we have one of the most unique trails in Crested Butte, and that is Mount Crested Butte. This trail starts with a gondola ride that will take you from the mountain village to the base of the most iconic mountain here. You're going to take the Silver Queen Express scenic gondola to access the upper trail for this hike, and then from here you can start your way up the mountain on a 1.9 mile round trip hike with about 850 feet of elevation gain to the summit. The views from the top are unbeatable. You have panoramic vistas of the Elk Mountains and the surrounding valleys. It's a great option if you want to do a shorter hike with maximum maximum scenery. Gondola tickets can sell out during peak times, so make sure to get those in advance. And yes, you can hike this from the village to avoid the pricey gondola ticket, but you're going to add a lot of miles and thousands of feet of elevation gain to your day. In my opinion, the gondola is worth it because it's stunning in its own right, and it makes the hike shorter so you have more time to explore other places in Crested Butte. Still in the greater Crested Butte area, for number 8, we're going to do Mill Castle Trail, a hidden gem in the Ohio Pass area offering dramatic views of rugged rock formations. This is one of the more unique hikes in the state. As far as mileage goes, it's tough to put an exact number on. On all trails, it's going to say 9.2 miles with over 2,000 feet of gain, but you can hike even further up to Storm Pass if you would like. But this also shows the mileage starting from the 4-wheel drive trailhead, and at the time we did this, we did not have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, so we parked at the lower trailhead, which added 1 to 1.5 miles each way to our hike. So again, it's tough to put a number on, but Bree and I have recorded 5.5 miles with 500 feet of elevation gain. And in that mileage, we saw multiple viewpoints and open fields that showcased the beautiful rock formations, and then we turned around once we felt like we saw the best things that the trail had to offer. At number 9, we have Gore Lake, one of the most beautiful hikes that you can do in Vail, Colorado. Vail is roughly 90 minutes west of Denver, unless you hit I-70's dreaded traffic. Most people go to Vail for its mountain town charm and iconic ski resort, but I think it's often overlooked as a hiking destination, even though the entire Gore mountain range sits above Vail. There's so much beauty to see here, plus the hikes in the area don't see a ton of traffic, and Gore Lake is one of the best here. The trail is a long one. It's 12 miles round trip with about 2,900 feet of elevation gain, but it's so worth it, and if you want to break up the mileage, you can opt to do a backpacking trip to visit for 2 or more days. At number 10, we're heading to one of Colorado's iconic national parks. We're hiking the High Dune Trail in Great Sand Dunes National Park. The Great Sand Dunes are an iconic Colorado destination that everyone should visit. They're the most beautiful sand dunes, and they're backdropped by Colorado's 14,000-foot Rocky Mountains. It's a great place for landscape photography and sandboarding. And if you do want to hike, the best hike to do here is called High Dune. It's 2.8 miles and about 600 feet of elevation gain, but keep in mind that you will be hiking on sand, so this mileage will be very tiring. And before we go any further, for those new here, I want to let you know more about the type of videos you can find on the channel. By fate, Bree and I met 10 years ago in Amsterdam, and since then we've started 2 media production companies and have more or less traveled full-time in the last 10 years we've known each other. I've been to over 50 countries, and Bree and I together have been to over 30 countries. We mainly make top 10 travel guides, hiking vlogs, and really anything related to travel and the great outdoors. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, but let's get back to it. Back on the list at number 11, we are hiking Music Pass to Lower Sand Creek Lake, a beautiful trail that'll take you to a pristine alpine lake. And the craziest part about this hike is that we're still inside Great Sand Dunes National Park. If you start at Music Pass Trailhead, the trail's roughly 7 miles round trip with about 1,700 feet of elevation gain. First, you will hike up and over Music Pass itself, where you're going to have amazing views of the 13ers and 14ers in the area. Then you'll descend to Sand Creek, where you will then take a fork in the trail left up to the lake. You will need 4-wheel drive and some clearance to get to Music Pass Trailhead, so if you don't have a vehicle that can make it, you are going to have to add 5 to 6 miles and more elevation gain to your specs. Next up, we're hiking the Venable Commanche loop to the Phantom Terrace. This is one of my favorite hikes in the West Cliff area in Wet Mountain Valley. The trail's 12.3 miles with 3,900 feet of elevation gain, so it's a big day, but it's worth it. You will hike up one valley, go across the Phantom Terrace, and then hike down another valley, making it a loop hike with endless unique views. The Phantom Terrace itself is roughly a half-mile catwalk that goes straight across the slopes of Venable Peak 13er. From a distance, it's near impossible to see the faint and narrow trail, but once you're on it, it is just a hiking trail, so there won't be any climbing involved. Although if you do have a fear of heights, then this hike might not be for you, because on one side there is going to be a 1,000-foot drop off. It's a hike that you definitely need to be prepared for a long day. And at number 13, we have Blue Lakes in Telluride, arguably the bluest lake in the state. There's a few places in Colorado named Blue Lake, so make sure you're hiking the right one. The one I'm referring to is geographically 5 miles north of Telluride and 10 miles west of Ouray. You will have to drive on a dirt road about 9 miles to the trailhead. This hike is a triple header hike where you're going to get to see 3 lakes, Lower, Middle, and Upper Blue Lakes. The hike in total is 8.7 miles with 2,500 feet of elevation gain, and that's if you're going to all of the lakes. And to get to the trailhead, it's worth noting you should have a vehicle with clearance. 4-wheel drive isn't necessary, but clearance is very helpful. We did make it here in my Corolla, but it was extremely dicey, and I don't know if I'd recommend it, so this is not advice, and drive there at your own risk. For the lakes, my favorite is easily the Lower Lake. It has the deepest, brightest blue color, and it looks like a bottle of cool blue Gatorade. At number 14, we have Devil's Head Lookout, which is roughly a 1 hour and 20 minute drive from Denver. The last road to get here is a dirt road, but any car can make it to the trailhead, and then the hike hike is 2.7 miles round trip with 870 feet of elevation gain, and this is going to end in 143 steps along a staircase built right into the rock. It's definitely worth considering doing this one on a weekday because it can get crowded, but this place is so cool and unique. The fire tower looks like it's out of the Pacific Northwest, and the landscapes showcase our Rocky Mountains mixed with what looks like South Dakota's Black Hills. And at number 15, we have a 2-for-1, and that is South and North Clear Creek Falls. These are some incredible hidden gems to visit, and they're some of the cooler waterfalls in the state. These two falls are located on Route 149 between the towns of Lake City and Creed. The two waterfalls are a 6-minute drive from each other. To see North Falls, you will park and just be a few steps away from the overlook, and then from here you can walk a few hundred feet to get different vantage points of the falls. And to see the South Falls, you're going to drive 6 minutes south of the North Falls overlook, and then you'll have a 0.3 mile round trip hike with about 100 feet of elevation gain. These falls offer a serene and less crowded experience compared to other waterfalls in Colorado, making it a perfect spot to get away from the hustle and bustle. Next up, we're hiking the Devil's Kitchen Trail in Colorado National Monument, which is definitely my favorite hike in the park. It's a 1.5 miles round trip with 300 feet of elevation gain, and once you reach the end of the hike, you're just going to be surrounded by massive rock formations inside the quote-unquote Devil's Kitchen. It's like a giant playground and a really fun place to explore and climb around on. The trailhead for this is only 2 minutes from the ranger station along the Rim Rock Drive, which is what's going to take you through Colorado National Monument. You can do the drive in 45 minutes to an hour, but if you want to hike and explore trails like the Devil's Kitchen, you're going to need to budget additional time, but visiting Colorado National Monument can be done as a day trip or a weekend trip. At number 17, we have the Kroger Via Ferrata, also known as the Telluride Via Ferrata. This is less of a hike. It's more of a thrilling experience that is a mixture of hiking, scrambling, and rock climbing that will have you traverse some of Telluride's beautiful mountains. A Via Ferrata is a hiking route where you can climb or traverse cables and iron rungs built right into the mountain. Every Via Ferrata varies in intensity, but Telluride's is a very intense one with some serious exposure. So if you've never done a Via Ferrata but are interested in this, I'd recommend hiring a local guide to take you. And if you have done Via Ferratas, have the appropriate gear yourself, and are comfortable navigating the route, you can opt to self-guide this one. This is one of the coolest Colorado bucket list adventures that the state has to offer. At number 18, we're heading to the Front Range and hiking Isabelle Glacier, which is located in the Brainerd Lake Recreation Area outside of Nederland. The trailhead is about an hour and 10 minutes from Denver, and then if you do the whole hike, it's roughly 8.5 miles with 1,650 feet of elevation gain. However, that's if you go all the way back to the glacier, which is pretty tucked in there. You can do this or hike less, as there's a few destinations along the trail, so no matter how far you go, it will be amazing, but the views do continue to get cooler and cooler. Along the trail, you'll also get to see Long Lake, Lake Isabelle, an unnamed lake under Shoshone Peak, and then the glacier at the very end. And at number 19, we're heading to Conundrum Hot Springs. This is one of the coolest hikes that Aspen has to offer, but it is a big one. The trail is 16.9 miles with 2,800 feet of elevation gain, but if you hike this in the summer, you can expect wild hot springs deep in the mountains, fields and fields of wildflowers, waterfalls, meadows, and views of the surrounding 14ers. And if you want, you can actually hike Castle 14er and Conundrum 14er from the hot springs, but it's worth noting that this is not going to be the easiest standard route to climb. If you do this as a day trip, it's a big one, but if you want to break up some of the mileage, you can do this hike as a backpacking trip. Bree and I did a 3-day backpacking trip here for my birthday a few years ago, and if you do this, make sure to pay attention to the campsite you choose when booking, as some of the sites are right next to the hot springs and some of them are almost a mile away from them. For our last hike on the list, we're heading to Rocky Mountain National Park, 90 minutes northwest from Denver. We're hiking to Chasm Lake, which is accessed from Longs Peak Trailhead between Allens Park and Estes Park. The hike is 8 miles round trip with 2,600 feet of elevation gain, and it will take you past Peacock Pool and then on to Chasm Lake. You can do this year round, although you definitely want to be extra prepared if you go for this in the winter. The views are amazing as you're under Longs Peak, one of Colorado's 58 14,000 foot mountains, and it's the only one inside Rocky Mountain National Park. It's one of the most famous 14ers in the state. From Chasm Lake, you get to enjoy views of Longs, the Diamond, Mount Lady Washington, and Mount Meeker. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or other recommendations for bucket list Colorado hikes, please feel free to leave a comment below. But I hope you all have a great 2025. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys later.